So, hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestling Universe. As yes, it's that time again where we are about to discuss about this year's WrestleMania 35, which has had an attendance of 82,265 people were there in MetLife Stadium as WrestleMania returns to MetLife Stadium for the 35th installment of the show. And man, this show had, like I said, this show has a lot of shocks and surprises, to say for the least. And let's get things underway, shall we? So we're going to start things off with the Cruiserweight. We're going to start things off with the kickoff matches, of course, which features the Cruiserweight Championship match. You have Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy battling for the Cruiserweight Championship, and obviously Tony Nese has been friends with Buddy Murphy pro to this match, but obviously they're now rivals for this one. And Tony Nese got the better of Buddy Murphy and finally captures his first Cruiserweight Championship run as Buddy Murphy's reign as dominance as champion has finally come to a close in the kickoff show, with Tony Nese coming out strong and winning the Cruiserweight Championship at the kickoff show of WrestleMania. So that's big ups to Tony Nese, finally getting his first WrestleMania moment on his debut of WrestleMania. And then, of course, the next match would be the second ever WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal, which got introduced last year at WrestleMania. Obviously, Naomi won that one. But this year, of course, we had a few people who showed up in the match, including Cassie Leia, because Cassie Leia, who obviously is Johnny Gargaro's wife, she appeared in the match. We also had Cara Sane, who obviously had that match in NXT TakeOver for the NXT Women's Championship. She appeared in the match. And we also got to see the return of Ember Moon, as Ember Moon finally came back after the fact that she got injured towards the end of last year, and it obviously put her off the show Monday Night Raw for some time, but it's glad to see that she's back now and she's able to perform in the Grand Decision of the More WrestleMania. But she was unable to win the second WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal, as Carmella ends up winning the WrestleMania Battle Royal for the women this year. So, yep, Carmella finally has her WrestleMania moment during the Women's Battle Royal. So congratulations, Carmella. And then, of course, we would go on to the match that was announced pretty much late this past week, which was, of course, the Revival versus Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, the Raw Tag Team Championships. And, of course, the Raw Tag Titles match, obviously the one of the last matches to be announced for WrestleMania, and of course this was on the kickoff show. And luckily enough, Kurt Hawkins' losing streak is finally over, because he finally got the win on one member of the Revival to give Zack Ryder and himself the Raw Tag Team Championships, as Kurt Hawkins finally wins the Raw Tag Team titles and puts an end to that losing streak of his that he's had for quite some time, which is crazy to see. So we can finally safely assure that Kurt Hawkins is finally now a part of the Raw Tag Team division along with Zack Ryder, and they're finally going to take over the Raw Tag Team Championship, and the Revival unable to retain the Raw Tag titles during the kickoff of WrestleMania. And then, of course, the final match for the kickoff show would see the 6th annual Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. This was the match that obviously Braun Strowman had those two celebrities from Saturday Night Live he had to deal with, as well as many other superstars who were hoping to win the Battle Royal, and obviously Matt Hardy hoping to go 2 for 2 in this match, but unfortunately he was unable to successfully win his second Andre the Giant Battle Royal, because Braun Strowman looked strong and came out strong as he would finally win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and finally became the 6th person in history to actually win the Battle Royal itself. So yes, Braun Strowman coming out as the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner for 2019. So that's got to feel good for Braun. So there you go, Braun Strowman finally becoming this year's Andre the Giant Battle Royal holder. So then we come to, of course, the main show itself, people. And, of course, the first thing to take note of is the fact that Alexa Bliss would show up because we all know she's the host of WrestleMania this year. And, she, kind of said that, she wanted to be the best host in WrestleMania history, which would then lead to her welcoming back big Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan. Yes, Hulk Hogan finally made a return at WrestleMania. We kind of knew it was going to happen because of the fact that, he just he's just kind of got back into working with WWE recently, so it was kind of given that Hulk Hogan was going to return to WrestleMania eventually, and it finally happened with Alexa Bliss. But unfortunately, it was cut short because, well, we kind of knew why it was going to get cut short because of because of Brock Lesnar's manager Paul Heyman, who decides to just rush past them, go into the ring, and basically he would basically kind of we could say he just thrown a tantrum essentially by saying, let's get this Brock Lesnar match over and done with because he's going to go to Las Vegas and we're just going to get the hell out of New York City because we can't be bothered to be here, basically. And Brock Lesnar decided to bring Brock Lesnar out, and yes, so surprisingly enough, we actually kicked off with the Universal Championship match. Funny enough, and he would bring Brock Lesnar out to the ring for WrestleMania, and it was it was something, eh? The fact that he would be, he decided to put Brock Lesnar as the first match of WrestleMania this year. And of course, we had a very determined Seth Rollins who would, get himself prepared and pumped up because he knows that Brock Lesnar was ready for a fight. But of course, the second that Seth Rollins came down the ramp, Brock Lesnar just literally tried to, wreck him with F5s outside of the ring, just literally tossing him around and doing what Brock Lesnar does best, that is to conquer. But surprisingly enough, this is the thing where it gets very, kind of shocking in a way, is that obviously Brock Lesnar, he was in control until he obviously pushed the referee out of the ring. Seth Rollins was able to do the low blow like he did on Raw, and yes, I think that was kind of a given. Rollins would have to use it at some point. And eventually he would just do 3 curtain stomps, 1, 2, 3, boom. Rollins beats Lesnar in under 5 minutes. Like, let that sink in for a minute. Seth Rollins beating Brock Lesnar in under 5 minutes. How do you explain that one, Heyman? How do you explain how Brock Lesnar had just lost under 5 minutes at WrestleMania? I mean, that's going to be a huge embarrassment, right, for Brock? I mean, did Brock really just, just got his ass whooped in under 5 minutes? I'm just, wow. You would think that the Goldberg beating he took at Survivor Series was painful. This was more painful than that. The fact that Seth Rollins had beaten Brock Lesnar, became Universal Champion, and wow, what a way to start WrestleMania off. The fact that Seth Rollins actually pinned Lesnar, that's mind-boggling to me. So that pretty much confirms to us that, Brock Lesnar's out of the door, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like Lesnar is definitely going back to UFC, as rumors have said for the last couple of days. So, doesn't surprise me now that if Brock Lesnar decides to go to UFC, then that's great. At least we've got someone new to face Rollins at the next pay-per-view. So good for Vince. I'm glad that Vince kind of basically shut Heyman up for once, Anyway, so now that shocking moment has come, that was a good, positive, shocking start. We would move on to the AJ Styles Randy Orton match. This was the match where we would finally get to see this match collide for the first time, and obviously Randy Orton and AJ Styles putting on their performances. Randy Orton hoping to go for an RKO out of nowhere, but of course when Randy Orton thought he had control, AJ Styles surprised Randy Orton and went for a 1-2-3 and was able to defeat Randy Orton at WrestleMania as AJ Styles put on another great performance at WrestleMania, beating the Viper himself. and his own game at WrestleMania as AJ Styles got the better of Randy Orton. So Randy Orton unable to defeat AJ Styles at WrestleMania. Then, of course, the next match would be the Falls Count Anywhere match as a determined Miz hopes to get redemption for his family to take on Shane McMahon, obviously the boss's son, Vince's son. Obviously, the Miz was looking strong for the majority of the match, trying to literally destroy Shane McMahon because we kind of knew Miz was going to do that the second he came out of the ring. However, though, he took a very dramatic fall towards the end of the match, where he basically sort of throwed Shane, he kind of put himself and Shane in danger by literally taking Shane with him to the like about a few feet high, and then eventually Miz actually got himself injured during that segment, and it was because of that Shane McMahon was able to beat the Miz in a Falls Count Anywhere match and come out victorious, which I think it was because of that move that the Miz did kind of caused Miz the match and gave Shane McMahon the opportunity to win the Falls Count Anywhere match, and literally basically made him victorious. So yes, for the first time, this is and funny thing is, this is Shane McMahon's first ever WrestleMania win, because as far as I'm aware, I don't think he's actually won a WrestleMania match. So technically, this is the first WrestleMania match he's actually won in his entire career, essentially. So yeah, so finally, Shane McMahon finally gets his first WrestleMania match win, and obviously Miz unable to get the revenge he wanted. Even though he got the beating he wanted, he just couldn't get the win in the Falls Count Anywhere match. But I'm pretty sure he'll get his revenge regardless the next time they meet. And then, of course, we would have the SmackDown Tag Team Championship Fatal 4-Way match. Aleister Black and Ricochet making their WrestleMania debuts as they would challenge The Bar, Shinsuke Nakamura, Rusev, and the Usos, hoping to retain the titles. And yes, the Usos had finally prevented themselves from losing the SmackDown Tag titles like they did last year, and finally remained the SmackDown Tag Champions on the grandest stage of them all, beating Aleister Black and Ricochet on their debut match at WrestleMania, which, despite the fact they were unable to win the SmackDown Tag titles, I'm pretty sure they'll have their WrestleMania moment down the road. I can definitely see them having some great WrestleMania moments for the years to come. But it's good to see Usos having their moment to retain the SmackDown Tag titles at Mania. And then, of course, this would lead to another Fatal 4-Way match for the Women's Tag Team Championship, where Sasha and Bayley were in that disadvantage against Nia Jackson, Tamina, the returning Beth Phoenix, along with Natalya, and the Iconics, all looking to be Women's Tag Team Champions. Now, of course, like I said, Bayley and Sasha were determined to win, and they would do whatever is necessary to actually win the match. But surprisingly enough, the Iconics kind of surprised the world by taking advantage of Bayley and Sasha's momentum and literally turned it into a victory, which would lead them to winning the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match, as the Iconics finally had their first, not only was it their first WrestleMania, but they would actually win the Women's Tag Team titles, becoming the second ever team in the Women's Tag Team division to actually win the titles, which can't believe it. It's great. The fact that they're finally getting their WrestleMania moment, but it's just surprising that Bayley and Sasha were unable to successfully defend at WrestleMania. But, at least the Iconics can now treasure their moment in history and being the second team to ever win the titles. So big ups to them. And then this would lead us to the match that many people were talking about. This is the match that people were waiting to find out if Kofi could do it. Yes, we're talking about Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan, WWE Championship match. Kofi Mania, many people nicknamed this match, because a lot of people were waiting to see, can Kofi actually get the job done against Daniel Bryan? Because Daniel, and it's funny because in the Hall of Fame, there's actually a clip on Twitter that I saw from the Hall of Fame where they were showing Daniel Bryan's face for 1 minute, and he got a lot of boos from people in that building. And then the second they showed Kofi, everyone was cheering like mental. The second they were showing Kofi's face and the New Day's face, it was so weird. It was so cool to see that, see that transition between, and then Daniel Bryan just literally shaking his head like he couldn't believe the response he was getting. But this kind of proved a lot of people were behind Kofi for this match, and Kofi didn't disappoint because he literally put out all the stops, did everything that was necessary to put Daniel away, and then eventually he finally found an opening, took advantage, and finally Kofi Kingston put an end to the eco-friendly WWE Championship and ends up becoming, for the first time in his career, the WWE Champion, finally winning his first world's title in the company, which is, well, 11 years worth waiting, definitely paid off for that young man, and it's great to see that Kofi finally gets a chance to be the top guy on SmackDown, and it's just, yeah, it's finally here, ladies and gentlemen. Kofi Kingston, the top guy, is finally here. It's, yeah, I was a little worried beforehand because of the fact that Seth Rollins winning the Universal Championship. I thought, okay, maybe Kofi Kingston may not win, but luckily they did make Kofi the champion, which is great. So, yeah, it's finally here. Kofi is now the man on SmackDown. It's incredible, isn't it? And then, of course, that will lead us to the United States Championship match where Samoa Joe would take on Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship. But, of course, Rey Mysterio was cut off short as Samoa Joe would leave WrestleMania, still the United States Champion in their battle for the United States Championship. As, yes, of course, Samoa Joe has his first WrestleMania moment by remaining champion. Then that would lead us to Roman Reigns' first match back from obviously having leukemia, where he would take on Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. And yes, Roman Reigns had a bit of a big battle ahead of him, but he was able to overcome Drew McIntyre and leave WrestleMania victorious after after just coming back from leukemia, finally beating Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Must feel good for Roman Reigns as he hopes to go on to bigger things later this year and see where he'll end up being. Now that his brother Seth Rollins has won the championship, maybe he'll go after that at some point. Who knows? Maybe he'll end up going to SmackDown. Who knows? But, Roman Reigns coming out strong once again at WrestleMania. And then, of course, we come to the Eliza performance because we also knew that Eliza was going to perform at WrestleMania. Yes, Eliza did have a performance, to say for the least. But the thing that really shocked people with this segment was the fact that John Cena didn't return as John Cena. He actually returned as the Doctor of Thugonomics. The Cena of old finally came back, which fans didn't expect that. The fans did not expect him to bring his chain gang stuff and his word life stuff. No one expected that to happen because they thought, okay, it was going to be the typical John Cena that we've had for the last, 14 years or so. And we finally got the word life Cena back. We got the 2004 Cena come back, and he's finally did it. And this may hint towards the fact that maybe he might bring this gimmick back even more in future appearances. I hope he does, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's good to see that he brought back the Thugonomics Cena at WrestleMania, a chance to bring that Cena back on the grandest stage of them all for fans to talk about, of course. And then this would then lead to the No Holds Bar match where Triple H put his career on the line against the Animal Batista in Batista's return match since 2014 when he lost since he battled his battles with the Shield, when Triple H and him along with Orton were trying to battle with the Shield down. But luckily, though, even though Triple H had literally punished Batista and did everything he could to literally punish him as much as possible for what he did to Ric Flair, eventually this would lead to Triple H, finally defeating Batista in a no-holds-barred match and literally keeping his career intact. And in fact, it was after this match, many wrestling sites have even reported that Batista has indeed officially decided to officially retire from pro wrestling in general. So that pretty much means that this was his last match in WWE. And he decided to make this his very last one. So so it looks like Triple H was right. He did decide to quit in the end. So wow. So Batista finally unable to successfully defeat Triple H at WrestleMania, and it led to him retiring from wrestling altogether. And then eventually we would have the farewell match for Kurt Angle, where he would take on Baron Corbin at WrestleMania. This was the match that Kurt Angle wanted, even though fans didn't really want this match, really. But anyways, Baron Corbin, there was a moment where we all thought Kurt Angle was going to make Baron Corbin tap, but then eventually Baron Corbin would then obviously take Kurt Angle down 1, 2, 3, beats Kurt Angle in his last match, giving a huge upset to Angle. And of course, Kurt Angle, even though he didn't win the match, he got a great ovation after the match because everyone knew this was it for Angle. There wasn't going to be any. Obviously, well, there may not be another match for Angle. But the funny thing is, Kurt Angle has signed another WWE deal just this past week. So part of me, even though part of me wants to believe this is the last we'll see Angle in a match, I don't want to buy into it just yet because chances are he may come out of retirement at some point down the road. So yeah, I don't really want to buy into that, really. But anyway, so that was Kurt Angle's moment at obviously Kurt Angle's last supposedly his last match at WrestleMania. And then eventually this would lead to the Intercontinental Championship match where the Demon Finn Balor would take on Bobby Lashley in the Intercontinental Championship matchup. And of course the Demon King obviously proving to prevail against Bobby Lashley and become the new Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania as Finn Balor's Demon side takes the Intercontinental title from Bobby Lashley on the grandest stage of them all, as Finn Balor, another superstar to successfully win a championship at WrestleMania. And then this leads us to the winner-takes-all main event, the first ever women's main event in the history of WrestleMania. This is like 35 or 37 years in the making. That who would ever thought women would actually main event WrestleMania? Well, this is definitely the time and place that fans really wanted to happen, and it happened. It was real, and it was fantastic. And of course, we would see Ronda Rousey, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch battling, as of course Ronda Rousey and Charlotte put their Raw and SmackDown women's titles on the line. And of course, this would lead to the man herself, Becky Lynch, successfully defeating Ronda Rousey and Charlotte and coming out with both Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. As you could say, she's the undisputed Women's Champion at this point, and rightly so, because she took over the main event at WrestleMania, literally coming out strong in the last match of WrestleMania, and it's finally here. The fact that who would ever thought that Becky Lynch would main event WrestleMania and actually become a double champion in the process? I mean, this is a dream to talk about for years, I know. But yeah, it's finally here. Becky Lynch, finally double champion at WrestleMania, and the fact that she had a feel-good moment is going to make a lot of people smile right now. That this is finally a thing, and so that is pretty much the matches for WrestleMania this year, and it's great to see that Becky Lynch ended the night off with that huge win for her, and obviously it was great to see that we finally got to see Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins have their moment. Tony Nese had his moment with the Cruiserweight title. Carmella had her moment as the Women's Battle Royal winner. Braun Strowman, the Andre the Giant Battle Royal winner. Seth Rollins beating Lesnar in shocking fashion to win the Universal title. We had the Iconics winning their first championship in the women's tag titles. We would have Kofi win his first WWE championship. Obviously, we would see Finn Balor become Intercontinental Champion and Becky Lynch winning the main event of WrestleMania, which, yeah, everything just felt perfect here. And it'll be interesting to see what comes out of Raw. And the question is, who will be debuting on Monday Night Raw tonight? As this is the Raw after WrestleMania. This is the Monday Night Raw where we tend to get some surprises along the way. We would get obviously some NXT stars debut on Raw and debut on SmackDown. So I would truly suspect that there's going to be some new faces on Raw, new faces on SmackDown, and probably some surprises returns along the way. So again, don't be too surprised if we see some new, other. Like I said, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see some unexpected returns happen on this evening's edition of Monday Night Raw, because chances are it will probably happen, and I would imagine Becky Lynch will be on Raw, given the fact that she's holding both championships. I think it's safe to say she's going to definitely be on Raw tonight. And in regards to Kofi, though, maybe he might show up, maybe he won't. I guess we'll see what they do here, whether they'll allow Kofi to show up. Who knows? But yeah, it's finally here, guys. It's finally here. Becky Lynch, the double champion at WrestleMania. So, and of course, they've also advertised WrestleMania 36, which interestingly, I want to talk about this promo, but interestingly, the promo for WrestleMania 36 felt like it was promoting a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, which is very bizarre for a WrestleMania promotion. I mean, for them to advertise a pirate ship for WrestleMania, which I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to signalize, whether that's meant to say that maybe WrestleMania's stage is going to look like a pirate ship, which maybe is what they're teasing. I don't know, but it just seems a bit weird why they're advertising such a Pirates Caribbean themed WrestleMania, which don't know if that's what they're teasing here, but yeah, I just thought it was a bit weird that they did that for a promotion. And also another thing they also promoted was the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, which I thought was very interesting, because normally we would have Backlash following WrestleMania, but if this means that Money in the Bank is actually indeed going to follow WrestleMania, then does that mean we're not going to have a pay-per-view for the rest of this month? I mean, I don't know what that means, but I guess we'll soon find out regardless, because I'm just curious now, why did they advertise Money in the Bank and not advertise, Backlash or something? Because you would think that would be the next pay-per-view they advertise, or the Greatest Royal Rumble, because these are the two. I'm starting to wonder whether Backlash is happening next month, or whether they're not going to do Backlash till later in the year. I mean, I don't know what that means basically for WWE, but I guess we'll soon find out, I guess. And at least we now know that Money in the Bank is, like I said, at least we know that Money in the Bank is going to be happening on the 19th of May. At least we know that's a thing. It's just the question of who's going to it's going to be one of those questions of who, what pay-per-view comes after WrestleMania, doesn't it? But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will enjoy this sort of discussion on the results of WrestleMania this year. And yeah, it just feels good, doesn't it? It feels good to finally be at WrestleMania, to see all our favorite stars prevail at WrestleMania, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out on Raw. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in that Raw review and SmackDown review this week, and we'll see if any new faces pop up. So see you then.